You are listening to a Path to a New You, a podcast about mental health and veterans issues. I am your host, Timothy Zarumsky. I am located in Madison, Wisconsin. I am a therapist and I run a private practice called New Beginnings Counseling LLC located in Madison, Wisconsin. I am currently seeing people virtually via Zoom or via phone calls. You can contact me at 608 571 3896. Or you can email me at tim@at newbeginningscounseling at gmail.com for questions or to set up an appointment or to set up an appointment. I do have openings as well. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, and Spotify. There will be guests on the show. I have a couple guests coming up in the next couple weeks. One is a lady. She's a therapist who specializes in hoarding, so that should be really interesting. And then I have one in January. She's going to be talking about perfectionism. And there's another one who works in a department of the veteran of the VFW. She's a president of the auxiliary department. So I do have a few lined up. If you know anybody or yourself would like to be a guest on my show, please contact me. I do have a Facebook page for this podcast as well. It's also called A Path to a New You. Please like and follow, and you can message me on there as well through Messenger. Also, once you're done listening to this episode, if you could rate it and review it, I'd really appreciate that as well. So, the goal of this podcast is to educate people on mental health and veterans issues. The education of mental health has improved. However, there's still some stigma out there. So, it's improved over time. I'd say it improved since the pandemic. Since the pandemic, that's when everybody started figuring out, hey, you know what? It'd be nice to see a therapist. So, it got improved quite a bit since the pandemic, which is really nice. So, in today's episode, I am going to be talking about ways you can adjust to the end of daylight savings time and how you can cope with it. I know daylight saving time ends next Sunday, I believe, and that's when the time falls back, I believe. And I know in the spring you go ahead an hour. I think in the fall you go back an hour. And then, especially during this time of year, the it gets darker sooner. So I want to talk a little bit about that, how you can cope, and what you can do to help yourself with your mental health. Our internal body clocks, known as the rhythms, are highly sensitive to changes in light and darkness. So our body sees it's getting darker later, and then it's and lighter. It's highly sensitive to changes in light and darkness. The circadian rhythms, circadian spelled Circadian, rhythms influence every part of our bodies from our sleep wake schedule, hormone production, to our appetite. Additionally, mood disorders such as seasonal affective disorder, which I did talk about in an earlier episode, major depressive episode, and bipolar disorder are strongly associated with abnormal sleep and changes in the circadian rhythms. In about a week from now, or actually on Sunday, it's coming up sooner than later. We set back the clock during the fall. Set the clock back an hour. Gaining an hour, our circadian rhythms can be thrown off balance, leading to a host of psychological challenges, such as your sleep patterns. The time can disrupt our sleep patterns as our body struggles to adjust to the new schedule. It's kind of like an emotional jet lag. Your body's like it's different, feels different. Scientific studies have shown that even small shifts in sleep timing can lead to sleep deprivation, fatigue, and irritability. Mood and mental health impact as well. It definitely impacts that. The change in daylight hours can also impact our mood and mental health. Seasonal affective disorder, which is a form of depression that follows a seasonal pattern, is more commonly experienced during the fall and winter months. So around September until like April, March, April, it's pretty common to have seasonal affective disorder around then. The time change can exacerbate symptoms of the seasonal affective disorder, such as low mood, lack of energy, changes in sleep and appetite, and decreased motivation. If you experience the seasonal affective disorder and you notice it, it's coming on, you can notice it. There are many things you can do, and I'll talk about that here in a minute to help with your situation. Again, motivation, it gets darker sooner. You're less motivated to do stuff. It's cold outside. You don't want to really do anything outside. So you're all staying in 'cause it's cold, especially in the Midwest where I'm from, Wisconsin. It's right now it's about 40 degrees outside. And you can go outside right now for a bit, but once December hits, it starts getting in the 20s, and you're like, yeah, I don't really want to go outside and do anything unless you really have to. There are some coping strategies that can help with this transition. Give yourself some time to adjust. You know it's coming. Just be prepared for it. Eating vitamin D rich foods. I do talk to my clients about vitamin D during the winter months. You can get vitamin D tablets or pills at your local pharmacy over the counter. Some other vitamin D foods could, s- some vitamin D for foods such as salmon, trout, canned tuna has sources of vitamin D, mushrooms, eggs, fortified milk, fortified orange juice, yogurt, cereals. There's all types of food. What you do when you go grocery shopping, just look for it. You can see the ingredients and definitely. So eat more vitamin D rich foods. Start taking some vitamin D tablets. Embrace the natural light. What does that mean? When it's light outside, open your curtains, open your shades all the way up so the light comes in. There is a thing called light lamps. Those with seasonal affective disorder can get those. Some insurances pay for it. You can also get them on Amazon for fairly cheap as well. So what you do, you put your light lamp in the living room, someplace where there's a chair. In the morning, when you go, say you read in the morning, like read a book for a bit, turn that light on. It's a bright light. There's a certain amount of light that it gives off, which definitely helps with your vitamin D and your depression. And you read there for like 20 to 30 minutes, depending. You do that every morning or any time during the day, and it definitely helps. Have a mindful evening routine. create a soothing evening routine to signal to your body that it's time to wind down and prepare for a restful sleep. For example, what I usually do, I usually around 9:30, that's when I usually sit on the couch. I'll have like some herbal tea or something, and I watch some TV and I calm myself down. I do some meditation as well. There are several other things you can do as well, but those are just some of them. So yeah, like I mentioned, there are several other things you could do to help. Uh, Most important one I would say is stick to your schedule. Even though it may get light or darker earlier, stick to your schedule. Just be consistent with your eating, your social, bed, and exercise times during the transition. Just making sure you're sticking to the schedule. For example, I stick to a schedule e- even if it's getting lighter earlier and all that. I still wake up about 8 o'clock, 6:30. Between 6:30 and 8 is when I wake up. I get up, have my coffee, I have like a snack, and then I do my workout. And then after my workout, I shower, and then I make my breakfast. And by like 10 o'clock, by 9:30, I am done with everything. And then I set everything up to start seeing my clients around 10 o'clock. So I keep a schedule, and then after I'm done at 4 o'clock with my clients at 4 o'clock, I do my notes. And then after that, my mind just went blank. I make dinner. Yeah, that's right. I make dinner. I eat it, and then I relax. And yeah, so I stick to a schedule, even if the time changes, even with everything going on. I try to stick to a consistent schedule. That definitely helps. Avoiding caffeine or alcohol that helps too, because that definitely should change things a little bit. I know the sleep, co- coffee, and alcohol, they definitely disrupt your sleep. So I tell my clients, hey, um, do not do not drink caffeine past 6 o'clock. Do not drink caffeine or drink alcohol past a certain time because that definitely disrupts your sleep. Anyway, if you have any other questions about how to adjust to daylight savings time, you can contact me at the phone number I gave earlier. It's 608-571-3896. You can text or call me at that number. Or better yet, why don't you uh, follow my Facebook page called The Path to New You? And you can message me there. And if you're looking for a therapist, you can reach me at, again, the number is 608-571-3896. Or I even have a Facebook page for my counseling too. It's New Beginnings Counseling LLC. I usually post my link to the podcast on both of those and also on my personal page as well. And I post things on mental health, self-care, and all that good stuff on my pages as well. And again, if you could please, once you're done listening to this, if you could rate this episode and review it, I'd appreciate it as well. If you could do that with every episode you listen to, I'd appreciate it. And that way I can look at the reviews, say, hey, this is what you could do better. That'd be great. So far I think I've had one or two reviews, and I appreciate those who have listened or have reviewed. I really appreciate it. Anyway, you were listening to A Path to New You, a podcast about mental health and veterans issues. Have a good rest of the day, and until next week, be well.